Okay, so I'm going to talk about browser cookies. So it's going to be an introduction talk, just browser cookies 101. What are they? What types are there? And especially I'm going to focus on third-party cookies and why should we care as users, as consumers. Yeah, you can see the keywords and well, I'm gonna get started. We often heard about them and accept them without thinking twice. What, sorry? Can I go on or?
Puedes continuar, Marina. Es que alguien
Okay, I've
no se
heard
había
someone.
silenciado. Si quieres
Okay,
volver a
okay.
empezar,
Yeah,
porque llevabas una frase.
I was start. Okay, sure. Sorry. Okay. We often heard about them and accept them without thinking twice too, but do we really know how they work? And especially, why should we care? Today, I'm going to talk about browser cookies, which are also known as HTTP or web cookies. And I'm going to talk about what exactly they are, what types are there, and how it works. So first things first, what is a browser cookie? A browser cookie is simply a text file. So let's say that when a user navigates a website, the browser makes a request to a server for a piece of data. In response, the server is going to send the data, which is just a tiny file. And this small piece of data is then stored in the browser's memory, allowing it to remember useful information. For example, when a user navigates to other websites, it is able to recognize the user from the first login and also recognize subsequent actions. So even if the user is just on different tabs, just navigating. So it might interest you to know that there are many types of cookies that you will encounter on the internet. So I'm going to go through the different types based on two aspects. So the first aspect is how these cookies are stored and how long. And the second aspect is who places those cookies. So when it comes to the first criteria, that is how long these cookies are stored, we have on one hand persistent cookies and on the other hand session cookies. So persistent cookies remain even after exiting your browser or even shutting down your computer. While session cookies are deleted after your current session. Also, when it comes to who places cookies, we have cookies that are created by websites directly, the very same websites that you're surfing, and others that are created by third-party services. So now that I've talked to you about these two aspects of types of cookies, I'm going to dive in session cookies and persistent cookies. Okay, so session cookies. Session cookies are cookies that are tied to your current session, as I mentioned before. Unlike regular cookies, they are stored in, these are stored in your RAM, but regular cookies are stored in your hard drive. And session cookies are normally deleted when you exit your browser. I'm going to give you an example of how a session cookie would work. So let's just say that you're browsing your favorite e-commerce or online shopping store, and you're just putting items on your cart. So when the user opens a new page, a new tab, for instance, the products remain in the cart, even though you're browsing a different page. If we didn't have session cookies, a user wouldn't be able to add multiple items to the cart. It would just like not be any items on the cart. So the new pages would not recognize a user past activities, and their cart would always be empty. So you see that session cookies are actually useful. Now I'm going to talk about persisting cookies or just regular cookies. Unlike session cookies that get deleted when you exit a browser, persistent cookies remain stored on your hard drive or storage space until a given date or a specific period of time. Persistent cookies are used for authentication, tracking, and personalization purposes. The most popular persistent cookie is the Google Analytics cookie, which tracks what a user does on your website. So let's just say that you have a store and you want to track how a person has purchased an item of yours. So you want to analyze different touch points. So did they come from an online advertising? Did they come from an email campaign? So that's the purpose of persistent cookies, for instance. Another popular use of persistent cookies is, for instance, that cookie reads the language of your browser so that the website also is in the language of that browser. And that way, every time you access that website is in the language of your preferred language. Okay, so now that we've talked about these types of cookies, before I carry on, I'm just going to do a little aside so you can understand the next point. Now, I'm sure you've heard about third-party cookies or data, but what about first data cookies or first-party cookies, sorry. Well, these two types of cookies that I've just mentioned, so session cookies and persistent cookies, are considered first-party cookies because they collect first-party data. What is that exactly? Well, they are considered first-party cookies because they're created and stored by the website you are visiting directly. So there are no third services involved. But some cookies are dropped by the sites you visit. They're not dropped by the sites you visit, but rather by partner web services. These are what we call third-party cookies. So third-party cookies are created and placed by third parties other than the website that you are directly visiting. I'm going to tell you some of the best known use cases for third-party cookies. Here I go. So let's just say that earlier in the week, you looked up for some vacation rentals in Cancun, Mexico. You browsed a few websites, you admired the photos of the sunsets and sandy beaches, but ultimately decided to wait another year before planning your vacation. A few days go by, and suddenly it seems like you are seeing ads for Cancun on many of the websites you visit. Is it a mere coincidence? Not really. The reason you are now seeing these ads on vacationing in Cancun is that your web browser stored a third-party cookie and is using the information to send you target advertising. So you're unintentionally creating a trail of crumbs. So the way third-party cookies is, they work in 3 different ways. So they have 3 different purposes that I'm going to tell you about. So the first purpose is cross-site tracking. So third-party cookies collect browsing data that details your activity. That is the first purpose. The second purpose is retargeting. So using search activity to retarget visitors with visual or text ads based on the products and services that you've shown interest to. So for instance, you've been looking at a website with different products, and then those same products appear on your, I don't know, your Lingui page. That happened to me the other week. Okay, so the third purpose is ad serving. So this is the trickiest one. So these cookies educates advertisers on consumer insights to improve ad performance. So they collect data to see what works best when it comes to advertising. So let's just stop here with this third purpose. Why should I care about third-party cookies? I don't mind accepting cookies. I'm not that sensitive to targeted ads, so what? Well, let's go back to that third purpose of third-party cookies, which is to improve ad performance through consumer insights. So you as a user, you have a user ID that tracks your activity. And you as a user have a set of features such as gender, age, consumer habits, that makes it likely that individuals that share the very same features as you do have similar consuming patterns. So in a way, by accepting third-party cookies, that not only affects you, but also affects people who have the same features as you do. So as you can see, there has been growing concerns and awareness about this, and users are demanding greater privacy, which includes transparency, choice, and control over how their data is used. And that's why Google has announced that it will phase out third-party cookies on Chrome browsers by 2020. But hear me out, this is a hot topic because Google advertising accounts for the majority of Google's revenue. Hold on, because I'm going to give you some figures. The total revenue of Google from advertising amounted to a total of 181 billion US dollars in 2020. You can certainly say that even though Google has a plan to phase out third-party cookies, they will look for an alternative for the upcoming months. That's it for now, and thank you for your attention.